Greetings, good people. Welcome to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. And today we have someone who definitely does not look his age and definitely does not look his longevity of leading and learning. He's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, a professor at California State University, Northridge. He's an author. We're going to get into his book. He's a father. He's a friend and someone that has mentored many a young minds, molded and sculpted into some amazing adult human beings. Like, some of us literally know how to adult because we had the opportunity to encounter this person at such a young age. It's important how we plant seeds, and being able to be surrounded by individuals that are constantly not just planting seeds, but also watering and fertilizing them, and even sticking around to see what those flowers bloom to look like and do, and how they have continued to refertilize the land. All of these things play into how we build community and how we build better humans, right? So let us go ahead and welcome Dr. James Henry. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm thrilled to have you here. I saw you wrote your book. I got super excited about that. One, because I'm a sports girly, and two, because I had no idea that that was even something you were into. You're not the most aggressive person I know, so definitely didn't expect that. But one thing I do know about sports is that it's more than just about the game. And I'm just thrilled to have you here. So why don't you let the people know, let them know a little bit about you through stories that have impacted you.
Yeah, well, when I went to Russell Elementary, Los Angeles, South Central. I went to Drew Junior High School, and actually, I played Little League at Roosevelt High School. And one of my mentors, Mr. Lattimore, who was actually my math teacher, was actually a ref. I saw him when we were playing a game at Fremont, and I was like, interesting. Oh, okay, here's my math teacher out here mentoring and giving back to the community. And then, we had some issues with my family at Fremont. A couple of cousins, had to not go there anymore. So my mom was like, let's try something different. So instead of going to Fremont High School, I was bused to Monroe. And to bring football back into it, there's another former mentor who Gigi McGuire. And she was an EOP outreach counselor. She came to Monroe. She summons me out of class. I was like, oh, what I do now this time? And she was like, are you going to apply to college? And I was like, I want to get a football scholarship, and I had played football since I was 10 years old. And here I am, 18, 155 pounds, and I still have that illusion about, hey, I'm going to go to the NFL. And, and I had never thought about it. She said, well, what if you don't get a scholarship? So, from 10 to 18, I'm thinking NFL dreams. And I was like, okay, I'll fill out the application to the university. And I was like, if I get in, I'm from the inner city, I don't have any money. And she said, well, fill out this financial aid application. I was like, okay. And so I got a lot of letters of intent from a lot of schools, Kansas, Brown, but I ended up not getting a football scholarship. I did come down to Cal State Northridge to play, but had I not filled out that college application for Cal State Northridge, I wouldn't have had a scholarship. My trajectory would have been a lot different.
What a blessing, right? She was looking out for you.
Absolutely.
She was looking out for you, and you have gone on to look out for so many others. So, how did you even decide? Okay, I went to Northridge. I didn't wind up playing football, but I'm going to dedicate my life to enriching the minds of other young people because you could have gone any other direction. Like, how did you get here?
Right, absolutely. I actually did play for CSUN because CSUN had a team in the 80s, early
I
90s.
was going to get into that.
Well, there's another story there too, but I actually, and this is sometimes you just don't know why, right? I always knew in the inner city that there was something different. Even I'm talking young, 9, 10 years old, I just knew there would be a different experience for me. So, trying to give back, just like Gigi did, my first employment here was as an EOP recruiter, just like her. So I was recruiting at Canoga Park High School, actually. Then I became an EOP tutor, and then I became a peer advisor, and that's how I ended up as a professional academic advisor and adjunct. Just through my experiences as an EOP student, and then as an EOP recruiter, tutor, and then peer advisor, and now advisor for 32 years.
That early part of a college experience has changed a little bit at CSUN, right? I feel like we were really nurtured. Who was it? Summer Bridge? I don't know. Do they still have Summer Bridge?
Yeah, we still have.
And EOP, and now they're trying to get rid of affirmative action. Like, how has the university experience changed for, let's say, a young kid coming away from home for the first time? How does it look different, and how do you guys continue to make it a nurturing place where they don't, I don't know, drop
Yeah.
out?
You know, that's interesting that you say that because in my interviews, we interview the EOP students who come in, and I always try to relate to them. What neighborhood you from? What school did you go to? And their experiences are different than ours. I might have had a rough experience in the inner city, but sometimes these stories they tell me are, I'm like, wow, would I even have been able to survive that? So they go through a lot of stuff, domestic violence, uh, alcoholism, for the Latino community, deportation. So it has changed, and we still have the outreach counselors, but it's so weird. I don't understand that social dynamic really fully yet. But we had drive, we had ambition. We was like, oh, well, they don't want us here. We got to be successful and get our education. And they talk about entitlement and all that, but it's different. So I think you definitely have to mentor them more and approach them more. In fact, they just did a study here that said, the students who are already ambitious are much more successful than that group who don't even know how to go and attempt to get help. They might be introverts or whatever. So, yeah, so we definitely have to put forth more effort to help. And I love it.
All right, coach. So listen, I'm I'm not a soft parent. I am a very much an alpha parent. Okay. I don't believe in fun pedics. I got a lot of my adult lessons from a man you might know, Professor Johnny Scott, who let us
Absolutely.
know the minute we walked on campus that you can quickly be left by the wayside, whether it's at in the university or on a team or whatever. Like, you got to compete. You have to be resilient. And that does not feel like how people are raising their kids these days. And that might go a little bit to what you are speaking of. So I want you to talk to me about like gentle parenting and coaching styles that help people raise resilient kids that become even more so. We always said we're not raising kids because we don't even let people talk baby talk in our house, even when our kids were babies. We were like, we're not raising babies. We're raising like humans,
Right.
people. I need you to talk, like speak English so I can understand you. So a lot of the things that go on now, it drives me nuts. It does not work for us. Talk to me about your style and what do you think is a successful way to use athletics to be able to build strong kids and young adults?
Wow. So, first of all, let me say that I really credit my entire experience for graduating from Cal State Northridge to Professor Scott.
Mm,
And I didn't know this, but he actually, his mom used to work with my mom at the Watts Health Center. So
wow.
I was in his class. I didn't know who he was, but he knew who I was. So I'm sitting in the back, that student, first generation, and he used to ask me questions in English class. Mr. Henry, can you give me a transitional word? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know. And like you said, he would be like, we'll give it a try. So his motivation for me was, I'm not going to let you be back there and not know. So that, as a freshman in English class, that's when I started to study. So I would go to class and he would ask me a question. Bam, now I'm in the front. I want to answer every question. But you know what? I'm actually the opposite of you when it comes to parenting. And I don't know, it's because, you sometimes when you grow up not having, you just want to make sure your child has everything. My children have never had a spanking, and they're pretty good kids. They're sharp. I did have a lot of help from their grandparent, you know what I mean, who was a teacher, so that helped a lot. But when it comes to sport, you're absolutely right. That's the reason I wrote the book. It kept me out of trouble. In the inner city, we don't have no boys club, girls club, so the park was our place to go. And so, if I hadn't been playing little league, all that time, what else would I have been doing? You know what I mean? With my peers, running around the community and getting in trouble. But the character that comes, I still got it ingrained in my head. And in the book, I talk about I had some good coaches that I learned from, and I had some bad coaches. But I just remember this one coach at Roosevelt. He used to say, "Don't be a quitter." We had to run a lap to get warmed up. Don't be a quitter, and he would say it so much that literally it is ingrained in my life. You know what I mean? So I'm always telling that to my children, don't be a quitter. So it's just so many things like that. When you talk about coaching football, I was bused to Monroe, so we used to have 2-a-days. So we couldn't even come home. We would exercise in 120 degrees in the valley in the morning, and then when it cooled down, we'd go back at like 5. And so it teaches you in life, like, oh, it's hot. You know what? But I got to go to practice. You know what I mean? If there's a goal that you want, sometimes you just have to do it. So yeah, there's so much of that in football. You know what I mean? And it tests your manhood too. I haven't been able to find, even in coaching, the same adrenaline you get from playing football, the same one-on-one challenge that you get with your opponent on the other side. And it's also a thinking game. When I hadn't had a playbook until I got to college. So, you playing both ways and they give you this stack of offensive plays and defensive plays that you have to literally memorize. So again, this, I think a lot of people just watch the game, but there's so much more involved in coaching. And again, the book, think about someone who's not a reader, but they love football. It's written in very simple language for youth to be able to, read something that they're interested in. Absolutely.
I love this. And again, thank you for allowing us to share this with the people. But this is the book from our amazing Dr. James Henry, Coaching American Football Positions. And when I was going through it, I'm seeing literally the X's and O's, like the positions, and showing them how to properly do things. Listen, I don't know how people get all the way to the NFL and still don't know how to tackle right, but okay, let's just
Right.
say we got to start them early. Also, I want to go back to the parenting piece of it really quick because point of privilege, I'm just going to share this really quick with you. There's a few people, as long as I've known James Henry, he's never been messy and not into too many shenanigans. Now, of all these years that have spanned and all of us keeping up with each other, and I've never heard him in mess or drama or being extra. So I could totally see his kids being just as nice as him. Now, am I off? Are your kids nice, or do you just have a
They're
gentle parenting style? Because I know we get our characteristics from our parents. Did they get that niceness from you?
they're too nice.
Mm.
I always say I'm everybody's friend, but nobody's best friend. And yeah, they definitely, I mean, both of them. But it's almost though, if they are lacking anything, it's the social skills, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And
Hmm.
especially, me, I'm black everything as a parent, you
Yes,
know what I mean?
yes, yes.
But they went to school in Port Ranch, so there's not a lot of us there, you know what I mean?
Right.
So just the social skills. And then when they got to high school, they were homeschooled. So that was pretty much all online. But Tanya, what we talked about earlier, what's going on in the world now. My kids experienced COVID and Trump twice.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's powerful, you know.
Let me ask you though, you are very much solid in your culture and your roots. How are you raising your kids to deal with the shenanigans that we have to deal with, even so far beyond where we thought we'd still be dealing with this kind of stuff? Like, I really thought we would have at least been past some of the shenanigans, and we are not. So, what are
You
you
know,
doing as a parent to prepare them and keep them resilient?
well, in retrospect, I really think it's just going to come from their education because they never really responded to me again, teaching them the culture the
Hmm.
whole time, right? My daughter took English with Professor Shaw. And so she's actually reading from somebody else about our culture. So she comes home to me now, or we'll drive home and she'll ask me a question. And now we're engaging like, a college student and a professor about the culture. And I love that. And my son, again, he's testosterone 15, you know what I mean? So I know he's gonna have that same experience. He's taking a spring class at Valley and it's African American history. So I know he's gonna come home. Oh, Dad, I learned this and I learned that, and so we're engaged like that. So I was kind of upset that it happened so late, but
Hmm.
at least I see it happening. Yeah, they
Right.
get it. Absolutely.
Do you worry about them?
You know, I've tried to give them financial literacy as well. You know what I mean? Plus, me being first generation, I'm leaving them way more than I was left.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
still, you know what I mean? When they say a fool and their money can part, if they didn't, even me, if I didn't have that sense of culture, as an Africana studies major, I would just be mad. But when you have that knowledge and sense of self, when somebody is acting crazy, you understand it's really their own psychosis. You know what I mean? So it really kind of don't even bother you. I don't mean you don't get angry or mad, but it's like, I already know
Right.
what you're
I know
talking
this
about.
game. I know this
I
game.
know this game.
I know this game. And I was prepared by some of the best to deal
Thank
with
you.
this game.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
crazy. It's wild. But I will say, one of the classes at Northridge, I thought Professor Scott was the worst. I used to be afraid of him. I got an A in his class multiple times. So after that, I felt like I could just run the world. Like, literally, I was like, there's nothing that can stop me because I can get an A in Professor Scott's class. No one
Let
else
me
made
tell
me
you,
feel like that.
let me tell you a wonderful story. I'm sorry for
Mhm.
interrupting
No,
you,
no,
but listen,
go. Yes, please.
this is a Scott story, right? So in the second, first I took remedial in '98, then I took freshman comp, which is 115 at the time. And I wrote a 15-page paper. I go back to the brother typewriter, not, grammar correct and all that, right? Grammarly. So he made me rewrite a 15-page paper to type it, right? Because it had one typo. I was trying to auto correct. You remember the typewriter used to throw that
With the whiteout.
white correctional whiteout and all that? No. But again, it let me know if you wanted to pass this class, you got to rewrite the whole 15-page paper. So the next time I type it, I was like, tick, tick. But again, that's like you said, just the type of discipline he instilled in me. So as an adult, I know if there's something I need to do, as much as I don't want to do it, I just need to do it.
Yeah,
That's definitely something that happens in coaching as well.
I love that. Professor Dennis, I had a 4 hour lecture class with him on African American literature, I believe. Blew my mind.
Right.
The class blew my mind. And I didn't think that I could ever be any more wowed by something I could learn after Professor Scott. 4 hours once a week with Professor Dennis. I
Right.
was, but it wasn't just the literature. It was like the way we process the information, the way we, and what we do with the information that we get, and some of the historical figures in our culture. But those are all the things I'm not sure our younger generation is get that that instilled in us the ability to be so resilient. And so I see you over there. Like, I know what that is, and I'm not
Absolutely.
worried about it.
Professor
So,
Dennis, he was actually a freedom rider, when they
was
went back
he?
to the South. Yes. And again, like you said, he was humble. He didn't really talk too much about
Not
it,
too
but he's
much.
actually the person who gave me my first class to teach in at the time what was Pan African Studies, now Africana Studies. So we shared that, and he was always telling me, "Hey, James, you live in the Valley now. Why don't you get involved with the NAACP in Pacoima?" So always trying to have me be an activist. You know what I mean? So
I love that. So let's I'm gonna go ahead and put this book back up here because I want to talk about it a little bit more with you. Now, looking at the book, this is your son, yes?
yes, yeah.
So you teach, does he play football?
He listen. This is crazy, right? My son has never played tackle football, and you, as a married person, know when your wife and the grandmother started, again, don't know a lot about football. They were really scared for him to get a concussion. And I told him, I said,
Mm-hmm.
look, I played football from 10 to 21 years old. I never had an injury. Millions of people play football every
Mm.
day in the
And
United
never have an
States
injury.
and never had no injuries. But again, you have Hollywood make one movie, then all of a sudden. So he played flag, but he's a basketball guy. That's another
Okay.
thing as a parent. You can't determine which sport they're gonna go. So I don't know nothing about basketball, but I coached him all through to high school in basketball. But
So
yeah,
walk
I'm sorry, go
so
ahead.
so walk us through kind of what you are teaching in this book in relation to these images.
Right. So like I said, I had good coaches, and there's these little details in football that are so important. It's the difference between good and being great. And a lot of times, a lot of people who coach have never even played football. You know what I mean? They watch television and they make up stuff, but there's a lot of stuff you can only get through the experience of playing. So here, I coach. The book is about coaching all 22 positions. So this is the center, the most important position, really, because if you can't get that ball from the ground to that quarterback, no plays happen. So this is my son teaching the center how to get into what we call a 3-point stand, but with the football.
And I'm guessing, just knowing you a little bit, do you have some life lessons sprinkled into all this?
Uh, Absolutely. Uh, it's really uh, it's kind of like the book does that itself. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because you could go out and do a drill with a kid, and he's not interested, and but if they read this for themselves, if they just say a center memorizes the section just on what a center does, you know what I mean? It's just like teaching. It goes into your mental, and you practice this, and it becomes a part of your muscle memory. So absolutely, and there's going to be other books too. But what I really wanted to do to this one is, look, my mom was a single mom, sort of. My dad like lived around the corner, so he was always there if she needed us discipline, right? But she didn't know how to put my pads in the first year I played.
Right.
Luckily, I had an older cousin had played, put my shoulder pads on. But this book is also for moms. You know what I mean? What are they doing out there with my kids?
Mm.
So absolutely, coaches, moms, players. I think it's really going to be a good thing.
All right. Now, what are we doing here? What's going on here?
All right, so this one is this is teaching them what not to do. So this is an offensive lineman actually holding, which is illegal. So what the refs look for is if you're grabbing that jersey. So here he's grabbing my shirt. So this is actually a scene telling offensive linemen don't hold. And it's crazy. Like you, even in the NFL, you know what I mean? Like you said, people been playing their whole life since 4, and they still jumping off sides. You know what I mean? They still grabbing jerseys. I mean, it's part of the game. But again,
And just a crossover, that's also illegal in basketball, and they still do it. They will grab your jersey. Not
absolutely.
okay.
Hackers.
So I thought this was a great example for people to understand if you're really looking to help your kid understand the X's and O's, what's going on, how and where people are lined up and things of that nature. I think you did a great job with this.
Absolutely. And this is basic information what I'm talking about. So let's say you're playing free safety. Your coach might just coach you on what it means to be a free safety. You know what I mean? But if you understand the game as a free safety, if I know what these cornerbacks are doing, if I know what the assignment of these linebackers is, it's gonna elevate your whole game. Football is such a fast game, but you can't just only understand what your position is doing. Because it's truly, what I love about it most, it's truly a team sport. When I think about all the relationships I have from Little League, still, thank God for Facebook, all the way up through my college friends who are real tight. We call ourselves C5 for CSUN. But you build these relationships with. I mean, they used to do my academic advisement. Ron Foster, Simon Goss, who's athletic trainer, if you will, and into yoga and stuff like that. So again, just the relationships with your coaches, with your players, with your friends, even the crowd. you know.
So it's very big picture. So for people that don't recognize how much of a team sport, how much being able to process, you are one person in a big picture. You are
Right.
one person that can either help or even mess up this big picture. So I really like how you have various different opportunities in the book to see that. And then what's going on here?
So I'm teaching them how when a running back is coming through the hole, he gets the ball from the quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to raise your right hand, right? Depending on if you go into the left side or the right side. Because you see how my arm is going under his arm?
Yep.
So if he had lifted the other arm, sometimes it'll hit the quarterback's arm and he'll fumble. So I'm teaching them how to come through the hole, grab the ball, and get low.
And here.
This one is probably the most important picture in the book because this is actually how people get hurt. And again, these people who are here coaching never played the game. They'll line the kids up 10 feet away from each other and just have them run into each other, which is not what football is. You understand what I'm saying? The way people get hurt is when they put the head down because your neck can take a lot of pressure this way, but it cannot take a lot of pressure going down. So they'll run at each other and duck their heads, and that's how people not only get concussions but also hurt their neck. So here I am showing you how you bend your knees, right? Spread those feet, get your shoulder into their stomach, and lock the hands. The most important part. You see those fingers locked? Because you'll see a really good running back. He'll juke you, hit you, and then take off.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta wrap that leg, wrap the sock, grab the shoe. Tenacity. What we talk about in the fraternity. Tenacity. Don't never give up. The game is not over until them 60 minutes is up.
I feel that. So this is your first time going through the writing experience and publishing a book?
Well, I have my dissertation
Mm-hmm.
and then my master's degree. And but yeah, as a official non-academic work, this is it was interesting.
Now, we talked about you looking towards retirement. Do you plan on doing any more writing?
Absolutely, because I'll have the time. You know what I mean? I really want to give more time to Alpha Phi Alpha, but it was always something. I was either getting my master's or my doctorate. You know what I mean? So I'll have time to really get back to the community through the fraternity, through St. John's number 5, my lodge. So I'm so excited. You know what I mean? And write. Oh my God, the academic writing that I could do through Amazon instead of, my stuff is going to be so black. Some people are like, I'm not publishing that. So, you know what I mean? I could just do it myself now. So it's only cracking.
It's so black. I don't be bothered with you. Listen,
Right.
a
Right.
lot of people get excited about retirement. You I want you to stay excited, right? Okay, I don't want to talk to you a year or two after you've retired and you're bored and you
No way.
fiddling around trying to
I'm
figure
going
it
to be coaching.
out.
I'm going to be coaching football somewhere, whether it's little league, high school. Now, I don't want to be the head coach because when I'm on my vacations, I got to go. So I don't need that much responsibility. But oh my God, I think it's going to be wonderful. I'm a fisherman, so I get to fish, coach football, mess around with my cars, and write
I love
and
that. Now
teach.
listen, I got to ask you this, James Henry.
Mhm.
Why Alpha Phi Alpha? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
Oh my God, what a wonderful story. So we have this thing, it's called a smoker because, back in the day, way, way back in 1906, they used to have some recreation. One of my proudest thing is I've never smoked any marijuana or drugs like that in my life. Probably because I was an athlete, thank God, again, to bring that back together. So we have what's called an informational, and you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, I had a Jerry curl when I came to Cal State Northridge, and two people who were alphas already. Brian Granville, who has a law firm in LA and Atlanta, and his sons, Vernon Jackson. So we were going to the dorm, and they saw me, and they were like, "You want to come to our smoker?" I was like, "What's a smoker?" They was like, "Just come to our information." So it was crazy. He had a Z 280Z with two seats, so I jumped in the hatchback, and I went to this smoker. Oh my God! I don't know if you know James Key, who's an alpha from Northridge. He's a
Mm-hmm.
chancellor in the army, and he has this oratorical skills that is just amazing. So he was in there talking about Shakespeare and uplifting the community, and this is actually what I have been looking for in the inner city. My dad, he was a Black Panther, so he had all these books, but he never would talk to me about the cause or anything. So I think my consciousness came when I read Black Boy in Professor Scott's class. So I went to the informational, and it was like, oh my God, what we helping the community, and of course the first draw was just seeing them step on the yard. Ooh, what is that? That looks cool. I want to do that. But when I went to the informational, and they start telling me that it wasn't just about having your letters on and being on the yard, that it was actually about helping and building your community, I was hooked.
I love that. Yeah, Vernon. You said Vernon. I stepped with him at, what was it, Midsummer's Night Magic, when Magic Johnson used to have his
Nice.
events. Oh, we used to have so much fun back in the day. What is Vernon up to these days?
He's still out there. He actually teaches stepping in a community center still in Los Angeles to the younger kids. Talking about mentoring, absolutely. He's still at it. I don't know how he do it at 58.
Still doing it. Listen, what do you think that the role of the MPHC is now in comparison to what it should be?
Man, I've been saying this for years. First of all, in California, we are at such a different disadvantage because of our demographics. You know what I mean? So imagine CSUN, for example, has a 4% African American population, which means maybe, let's say, even if half were males, you know, how many of those are going to be interested in joining the fraternity?
Hmm.
And of that half, how many are going to want to, go through the process? So, first of all, it's tough to have that national Panhellenic, just to keep generation people. I think they said something like 10,000 African Americans moved to the South, so it would be great if we could have big lines like they do in the South, you know what I mean? But we maintain it. We bring in one, two, three a semester, and that's what I tell them. You just got to keep bringing somebody in, one person in, just to keep it going. But I think we could be doing so much as a group. You know what I mean? You saw beautiful African American women, all Panhellenic, got together for Harris's election. And even though it didn't work out the way we think it did, even though I think it did, I don't know if I could publicize stuff on here, but there's a documentary called Vigilante Inc. And this guy is he's a journalist, and he did a documentary on how there's a group in Texas that is able to challenge votes, and if they challenge your vote gets thrown out. So again, that's the kind of stuff I'm be writing when I retire. But there's so much more we can do. I mean, we've been with the March of Dimes forever. We give out turkeys on Thanksgiving. But we used to say when I was an undergrad, take the initiative, forget about what we do, even our national programs, right? Project Alpha, go to high school, go to college. What about, what do you want to do? What do you want to do different that we haven't done? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? We're brilliant people. So what can we do that's different? Absolutely.
I love this. I could talk to you forever. So
Okay.
we will have to continue this conversation, but I definitely want you to, oh God, enjoy your retirement when it happens. I hope we talk before then, but you deserve all of the vacations, all of the time with your kiddos, all of the fishing trips and all of the free writing time that you haven't had all these years while you were pouring into the rest of our young minds. What is one of the most memorable moments that you had at CSUN coming up, like when you were adulting, not while you were a student, but seeing some of the
Oh yeah.
younger people come up?
I think the most beneficial thing about my job really is when I always try to treat everybody that sits across me in that chair as if they were me. Because again, I was first generation. I didn't know nothing about college. Neither did my parents. You know what I mean? It was like you got into Cal State Northridge. Good luck. And so I have gotten so many students to graduate who would not have graduated, who may have had some academic trouble, you know what I mean, who didn't learn in high school how to study, in the Cornell note taking, and so even students who have been disqualified. I have a student that actually got disqualified from Cal State Northridge, and she actually got her doctorate from USC. So, just giving up on students, no, we don't do that. We'll go back and get them regardless of circumstances. So, yeah, I think if I have an accomplishment, again, it has just been the number of students that I've been able to help graduate from Cal State Northridge and pursue higher education.
Love that. Give me 3 words that you would never want affiliated with you.
Wow. A quitter,
Mm-hmm.
a racist.
Ooh.
Ooh. And I'm just a happy person. I learned as an academic, you have your personality at 3, right? So I'm just so happy that I'm a happy person. Some people I meet, they be so miserable. I'm like, even out of the inner city and poverty, I just always been happy. I don't know what it is.
You've been able to see some of your students, past students, actually not just graduate, but go on to excel. I have to bring up Dr. Tari Hunter. And what has been your experience watching her become? Because when we was raggedy on campus, okay, we were a mess. We was always into some mess, and I spoke recently at the school, and she was there, and I just kept calling her Tari, and she was like, Dr. Hunter. And it
Right.
even takes me a minute to remember, like, she done some things. Like, you have students like that. What is that moment like?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I saw Tari come in as a freshman. Yeah, I saw her get involved in sorority and the BSU. I've seen her growth as an adult. You know what I mean? I've seen her come in as a professional. And I'm gonna take a little credit and say she probably was like, James went and got his doctorate. Let me go get mine. So yeah, that's a perfect example of what I was trying to explain.
The pressure be real. I like that kind of peer pressure. So I hope the rest of us, Bobby, he's another one, a lot of peer
Oh
pressure.
man, absolutely.
But it's been some greatness going. How did you feel when Northridge lost their football team? Because I
Oh
was super
God.
sad.
Listen, I was devastated. And let me tell you, I used to teach University 100 for 15 years. And, I would teach them how to do research projects. So I would have them do petitions, if you will, to bring back football to Cal State Northridge. Every year, I think it's since 2003 or something like that, I've been trying to get football back to this institution because
Man,
San Diego State has it, Sacramento State has it, San Jose has it, and they get a lot of money when they go on television if they make it to a bowl game. So why not Cal State Northridge? Bring back CSUN football and the social experience. People didn't even go to watch the game. We were just hanging out, having a blast.
having a blast. Yeah, I was pretty sad. So, well, listen, I want to thank you for your time. I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to let the people know where they can get your book and continue to follow you and your journey.
Yes, it's on Amazon. It's $9 or something like that for Kindle. The paperback is $20, and then the hard copy, which actually has a little bit more like what we're talking about right now, my story, is $32. So it's just go to Amazon.com and put in Coaching American Football Positions. And yeah, you can reach me on Instagram at Zulu J, and my a YouTube channel was the same, Zulu J. But again, I'm going to make one about the football book because again, that's hardcore, African American history on that one. And
I'm black
Facebook,
and I'm glad.
just James Henry, yeah, under Facebook.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Please keep in touch and always let us know if you have something new coming up and how we can support because we're family.
Absolutely. And I love what you're doing as well.
Appreciate you. Take it easy.
Thank you. See you.
Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What you think about today's episode? And share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you and we'll see you soon.